Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Manas to Mamas. We're on episode 7. Woo! I am so so proud of us that we are getting these rolling out to you. I hope that you all are appreciating that we are being more consistent. Definitely still not on a set schedule because mom life, it just
These damn kids.
it's literally like you're free. Yep. Nope. Okay, let's go. Set it up real quick.
Or like we'll schedule it, and then I'll be like, we're having a bad night over here, or she'll be like, you know what, these kids are fuck them kids. I can't do it today. So we're trying our best, but at least we're filming.
And that's what matters. So just keep going, right? Dust yourself off and try again when things don't work. But this episode, we're going to tap into a little bit of, the mom bod, the mom brain. You always hear it all the time. Oh, mom brain, I forgot this. But it really is true. Things kind of just slip your mind once again because the kids just become your priority. You hear about your body changes, prior to pregnancy, when you get pregnant. And really, as a woman, seeing that kind of happen as things are growing and things are changing, it's really mind blowing what your body goes through.
It's like a wait, what's happening? Like, oh, what's
When
this?
exactly. So we just wanted to pop in and kind of chat about that today. What are you doing in our room?
So the
Um,
editing may be a little bit weird because my son is asleep, but his boys are not, and they are very intrigued because mom is in their room today.
they're like, what is all this setup happening?
So let's go ahead and get right into it. Let's take advantage of the time that we have. So Michelle, give me a little bit about like what did you notice specifically? What did pregnancy do to your body? Like what were things that you were expecting that shocked you that you're like, what the is happening?
Right off the bat, I think just, you always hear people's first sign of like pregnancy are like tender boobs. Um, and I did kind of feel that, but more than that, kind of just how fast my breasts were prepared for a baby. Even like as soon as I saw that pregnancy test with Leo, just a couple weeks in, my breasts already had gotten like larger. My areolas were like way darker, more prominent, and I'm like, holy moly, like I'm barely not, a month, maybe 2 months pregnant. And like, how does my body so quickly prepare or start preparing for something that I'm going to feed 9 months from now? So yeah, just seeing how fast your body kind of starts shifting was really mind blowing. And with the app, I use the What to Expect app. So every week, with Leo being the first, we would sit down and like I remember at night, Michael and I would open the app and read it together. Like this week, he's this size of this fruit, and this is what's happening. So it was kind of nice to be able to track it and really see like, although I don't feel my body doing it, it's like creating nails.
Something's
And
happening. I create a
yeah,
whole
like
like
it's so crazy.
or something. Your husband asks you why you're so tired because you're laying on the couch. And you're like, today I created an arm. Today I
Yeah,
made a leg.
and really, it's just you hear about like the exhaustion, about everything, and really it kind of just hits everyone different. And really, like I was down bad. Like Alyssa would tell you, I would just want to sleep. I had no energy to do anything, but it was nice to be able to see it because I hadn't really followed someone's pregnancy that close.
She was the first one in our immediate family that like she was the first one.
it was just different because with my sisters and my mom, like I'm talking to them every day. Alyssa was living with me, so she's seeing firsthand like the food aversions, the like with Leo, I could not even smell carne asada. And I remember before she found out I was pregnant, or we knew but she hadn't, we went to the Habit, and they're like charbroiled burgers, and I usually don't mind them, but that day, OMG, like I almost threw up just
It
with the
took
first
a
bite.
while even after he was born before you can have like
Yeah,
barbecue.
like so this day I can't have like barbecue ribs. I'm slowly getting back into like the carne asada, and even then I really need to like crave it and want it, but like not a big fan. So yeah, I just kind of gained weight. Um, really didn't forget much. Like little things I would forget, but to be like, oh shoot, not a big issue. I didn't start like leaking during pregnancy. Some people have like collect their colostrum
Awesome.
prior. Maybe I did, but it really wasn't like squeezing or really looking. I did get like a clogged duct after, but once we talk about breastfeeding, we could get into that. But yeah, for the most part, nothing too crazy, but it is amazing to see. Um, yeah, what about you?
So I think I mentioned it before, but I had early pregnancy bloat. So like as soon as I told like my other sister and my mom that I was pregnant at the end of November, like I remember I sent them a picture and they're like, damn. Because I definitely like it wasn't necessarily a bump, but it was definitely like something is going on. Like maybe I had cheese because I'm lactose intolerant. But for me, it was I did have some of the tenderness, but I just thought I was gonna get my period at the beginning, so I didn't think anything of it. But I remember like Omar had told me like you just look pregnant. Like there's something different about you. Like and he even said it. He's like your boobs look different. What do you mean they look the same, you know? Waking wise, like I mentioned, I was diagnosed gestational with gestational diabetes. So I monitored what I was eating and my weight. So I think up until like the last week, like the week before, I think I probably only gained like 25 pounds. And then that last week I probably packed on like another 5 pounds of just water at that point. And it was just really cool to see like the bump growing. Like, oh my God, there's like a whole baby in there. Or like when I would see him move in there or like kick, that was like, I was like, oh my gosh. And there was times where like I would gently like push on my belly and he'd push back. It was just really, really sweet to see because, you know, I, I didn't think that I would ever, even though I really wanted to after my last or my first loss, um, I didn't think it I didn't know if it would be a possibility for me to get pregnant. So I tried really not hard not to complain, but the biggest part in the first trimester, like I said in Ezekiel's birth story, if you haven't watched that, go take a listen. Um, is I had really bad it wasn't even motion sick or not even pregnancy sick. What is it called? Morning sickness.
Morning.
It was like the dry heaving. Like I remember they came up for Thanksgiving and we went to go walk because I've always been pretty not like super active, but a good like let's go walk here and let's go hike here and let's get outside. But I remember we went to go to Windsor Riverfront Park in Sonoma, California, and I couldn't make it around the loop without like pulling over into some like little like ditch thing to just dry heave, just bleh, and I had to be eating. If I didn't eat every like 4.5 hours, the girl was dry heaving. I didn't actually throw up though until the second trimester. But it was just really cool. Like I know Omar would take pictures of me every week, and I tried to be like in very similar clothing, which was like black panties and a black bra of some sort or a black shirt of some sort, and just to like see the progression of like, oh my god, like my body did that. I didn't get any stretch marks while I was pregnant. I got one stretch mark after, but it's because I was wearing the Depends underwear that you had got me, and it was fucking hot, like so hot. I don't know what was going on with my air in my room, and I was like super hot and itchy, and I like that's when I freaking got the stretch mark, like after the fact. But yeah, I didn't really leak colostrum or anything. Um, there was times throughout the whole pregnancy where I would have be like extra wet in my underwear, which was a little weird because I've never been one to have like discharge or fluid. I've always been pretty like normal down there. So it was just like, oh no, like that's normal. Like I asked the doctor, like, is this normal? Like, oh yeah, that's fine. Like, because again, like I asked Michelle, she's like, oh, I didn't have that. Like, oh, I don't know. Like, and there was because every pregnancy is different. But it was nice to have her as like my like first stop, right? Like it was just normal. And I remember my plug started coming out slowly on July 3rd, I think. I remember like took a picture and I was like, is this it? And she's like, oh, it kind of looks like a piece of it, but it wasn't all of it, obviously. But yeah, and then for me, we've said it before, Ezekiel had to go to the NICU. So I remember, like, in that moment, it was like, fuck me. Like, yes, my vagina is bleeding like a fucking faucet right now. I just pushed this baby out. It's fucking swollen. I have an ice diaper on, but I'm gonna walk to that damn NICU. Like, I'm gonna be by my son. Like it's crazy to just think about. Like, I had just pushed him out. I was still in ice diapers. By the way, if you're having a baby, just ask the nurse for an ice diaper if you have them vaginally. It beats the Freedom Mom ice packs. It beats everything. Literally, they get a fucking diaper, they rip it, they shove a bunch of ice in there, and you just put that shit on there. Trust me, it feels good. Um, but like, it didn't matter that I was like, Omar's like, do you want me to get your wheelchair? I'm like, nah, dude, I'm just gonna walk to the damn NICU. Like, it's across the way, but whatever. It was like across the maternity ward. But luckily for me though, I didn't really get really bad hemorrhoids. I did get some, but not as bad as Michelle. Like, in no comparison. I was able to go to the bathroom. I think I mentioned it. I took a shower, a shit, and I went pee this within hours of giving birth. So just it was just amazing that, like, my body was, one, able to get pregnant, two, able to stay pregnant and have this healthy little boy. And then upon delivery, it was like, mentally and like body wise, like there was stuff happening, but it was all about him. Like, I was put on the back burner. And he just woke up. So breastfeeding, did you notice anything, or were you shocked by
Can you hear him?
anything? Okay.
Yes. So quickly,
Okay,
I did get
what
stretch
about when you
marks,
like got home and started
and
breastfeeding?
did get even more with Diego, and with Leo.
You got it at the very end, didn't
Okay.
you? Hold on.
Yeah. Which still isn't like too many because genetics, it's really good, but I mean, my body
Yes,
made a big
like my mom and grandma have like no stretch
none,
marks, none,
none at
no
all.
tiger marks, nothing.
Nothing.
Clean
So it was
belly.
like, whoa. And then the same. I think I got mine like the last 2-3 weeks with Leo. And then they kind of just became a little bit more prominent when I had Diego. But yeah, with breastfeeding, once we got at the hospital, they're kind of like, well, like I mentioned, the difference between like Lionel's team and Diego's team. With Leo, they were very much like, okay, here. Like, they would grab him and my boob. And I'm like, wait, what are you doing?
Okay.
And the same, it was more of like, he needs to latch. Like, we're going to get him to like figure out what works. And they kind of, not that they took that away from me, but they're kind of just focused on seeing him latch and like breastfeed, breastfeed, breastfeed. That it was like, okay, but you're not even giving me time to like figure out what is comfortable for me.
Like, what are you gonna do when you go home?
Yeah, so it was like, you're not gonna be here to acomodarlo. So eventually, like, he was a hungry boy, so he was like, I got this, mom, like,
I
I'm
got
ready.
this.
So, at first, the same, like, nothing, you don't really feel anything except, like, they're nibbling, so you're like, well, is he eating? Like, what's happening? But then once I did my follow-up appointment, what is, like, 2 days after, you see, like, the lactation consultant, and they gave me more tips, and they were very more, like, calm. They're like, get comfortable, what's comfortable to you, let's work it out with the baby. And it was like an hour-long appointment with just her. So it was nice that she was showing me as a first-time mom, like, this is what you want to see, because that'll tell you if he's just, like, playing with it or if they're actually
Digesting milk.
digesting milk. And so I was chilling. I'm like, this is easy. What do you mean? I remember mom would tell me, like, when I was breastfeeding Julie, I think it was Julie, like, my breast got so tender, like, me la pegué, and I wanted to throw her across the room. Or like the first time, she was like super engorged and like bloody nipples. She jumped in the shower and she's like, I wanted to cry. I didn't even want to shower. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, so it wasn't until like a couple days, maybe a week in, that I started to feel like the tenderness, the like crackling, just like the dryness of like that is your nipples when you're breastfeeding. And then it was like, then I understood what my mom was saying, like latching him back on when it's like cracked and just like bloody, and you want to throw him across the room, but like you hear, even like my lactation consultant was like, I know it's gonna hurt, but if you want to keep going and you feel okay, like just, I promise you, just keep going through that pain and it'll get better.
I know.
And it did.
Yeah, because Irene is a month ahead of me. She's like, the first 2 weeks are hell, but you just keep going, and then it's like smooth sailing. Assuming
Yeah.
that there's no actual issues going on, right? Let's put that out there. It's not easy
Yeah.
for everyone. We were able to breastfeed our babies, but it doesn't matter if you breastfeed, pump, formula, donor milk, as long as your baby is fed, that's all that matters. But we're
That's
not
it.
we're not bashing you if you couldn't breastfeed or you opted not to. My really good friend Liz, the moment she had him, she said, "Nope, I'm not breastfeeding him," and that was her decision. And we support her still because a
Yeah.
fed baby is a happy baby, and a happy baby is a happy mama. So
And that's all that matters. And that was kind of my issue, that I knew I wanted to breastfeed. I wanted to see how long I could go. Assuming, he would take it and that it was easy. Once I got COVID, my milk supply dropped. So we started giving him a little bit of formula. And then after I healed from that, my milk supply came back. Then I was pumping a little bit, but then he stopped taking the bottle. So I was like, why am I even pumping? Like, no, I'm good.
and we're
But
gonna do a whole episode on breastfeeding. My milk donor, love her. She has agreed to be a guest on that episode. So it's going to be a whole thing of breastfeeding, bottle feeding, formulas, all that stuff. So we're just going to kind of hit surface stuff right now, but we're going to get into the nitty gritty of what that looked like for us in a future episode.
yeah, and with Leo, was it Leo or was it Diego? See, I get all
Which one?
jumbled up. The mastitis. Or not
We
even
got no,
mastitis.
we
I
got the
got
clock duck with Leo.
with Leo. So I had Leo, and they tell you, like, just make sure you're like, if you feel kind of pressure, then that means you're either like super full, but you don't want to get it engorged, because then it can turn into like a clogged duct, which can turn into mastitis, and that's like a whole beast in itself. But I remember just like it was so painful and it wouldn't go away. I was massaging, putting hot compress on it. When I would like feed him, I would kind of like massage it even more, and it just like was not coming out, and it was starting to hurt. And I remember bringing it up to Michael, and I'm like, well, this TikTok person told me that,
TikTok sled.
like, if you put the baby, whatever way facing it, that helps. So I'm right there on the bed, and Michael's with the baby, like putting him in different positions just to see if he could like suck it out, and it just like wasn't. The first time it happened, we were seeing Roman and Brenda, and I was like, Brenda was like, let's see if he'll take it, let's see if he'll like, take your boob. And I was like, all right, let's see if he'll latch. And he latched. And as soon as I like felt that first like suckle, it was like I felt the relief of like he took it apart. Yeah, I was like, oh, Roman, I need you here in my life. Like next time it happens, I know who to call. But then I think the second time it happened, I don't know where they were, but
It was
obviously
in Bakersfield.
had she moved already? I think she had moved already. So I was like, I'm not gonna drive 2 hours to like pegarme a Roman. So I was like, babe, I can't anymore. Like it's just hurting me so bad. And he was like, well, I'm down if you're down. And I'm like, at this point, I want relief.
Come
And
here. Let me laugh.
yeah, so he did it, and yeah, he like he sucked it out for me, and igual like it was a stronger suck than Leo, so it was like instantly just like that relief. Luckily that's as far as it got. I don't think I experienced that with Diego. I think it also helped that I was like pumping, so I was able to really massage out anything. But shout out to Roman and Michael for coming through, because like chef's kiss. And if your man is not willing to do that, then
Is he your man? I'm just kidding.
is he? I'm just kidding. But yeah, sometimes you get desperate, and if your partner wants to help out, like why not? It's not like he like drank it or anything. He really just like sucked it out and spit it, but it all these messages coming through. But yeah.
We were able to breastfeed. The same thing, the hospital, after they got him all cleaned up and stuff, they brought him and she helped me latch him, and he was a hungry chunky monkey and he latched right away. So luckily for me, I kind of went in with the expectation of I will breastfeed if I'm able to. I didn't want to be so focused on like I have to do it. I wanted to, don't get me wrong, but I just didn't want to get in my own head and then get disappointed if something didn't work out. And then have to deal, because again, I know myself. right? I know that I'm prone to anxiety. So I didn't want to put that added pressure on me, especially with all the hormones shift and stuff. So
Mhm.
we were able to breastfeed. One thing that I was not ready for is I got bacterial mastitis, I think it was called. Like, and it happened like probably like in October. Yeah, she was born in July. It was
Mhm.
fine. Michelle was making me all the atoles. Like, you know, her soda was like, this is an atole recipe. So it was fucking July. And I remember she came to see the baby at the NICU and brought me a fucking thermo full of atole. Like, I think that week that you're at my house, you showed my mom how to make it. And all of July, I probably had atole like 4 times a day. Does it work? Is it on Mentos at the added calories? I don't know. But I took it. Like, here it is. You know, this is what worked for me, do it and whatever. Anyway, again, more on that later. But I ended up getting thrush a couple months after, like maybe October. And somehow or another, I ended up getting like that, and it became mastitis on one of my boobs. And I remember like I was able to latch him and feed him, but then immediately I'd hand him to Omar, and I would just fucking cry. Like it hurt in every direction, my back, my ribs, like, and it wasn't my nipple, it was my actual boob. Like it was just, and then it would like get all white, and I was like, "Oh my god!" Like, Michelle, what's going on? And she's like, "I don't know. I never had that." Remember, like, you know, I emailed the doctor, and she's like, "Oh, why don't you come on and I want to take a look?" So I had to latch him, and then like it got to a point that I would dread feeding him because I dreaded the pain. So the
Com-
doctor had to write me a prescription for a compounded nipple ointment, like at an old school pharmacy where they actually mix it. And that shit was not covered by my insurance. And it was like a little tube like this for like $95, but that shit was magical. But yeah, other than that, you know, there was a couple of issues with my breast milk supply and stuff. You know, that's a shout out to my donor. But luckily, you know, he's already a year and a half, not a year and a half, a year and a half a month. And he still nurses here and there. So we made it to a year, and at this point, I'm happy with every single day that we got off of breast milk. So I'm just counting it as a victory. But it's
Mhm.
just, you know, for me, it was like the shocking, like when they would get super full, like they literally felt like my friends, but when she got her boobs done, like hard and really,
Yeah.
really perky. And then like he would finish and then just be like, uh, but other than that, like I was just in pure amazement, like, oh, I'm doing it, you know,
Whoa.
like I'm able to do this. That's so cool, such a special bond, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. Let's
Same.
go ahead and start kind of shifting to like mom brain, but in between that, there's this kind of these two things live together in that postpartum and even pregnancy period, which is the level of exhaustion, right? Like Michelle said, she was exhausted most of her pregnancy, just tired. Like she said after, she was tired when she got COVID. Just this level of exhaustion is like something I've never experienced because it's you're exhausted, but you still show up 150% for that little human every single moment of every single day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Like your level of tiredness doesn't even hit you until you're fucking like, holy shit, I'm tired.
Yeah.
So how was it for you? Kind of, you know, I know that right now we're both kind of in the thick of quote unquote sleep training or
It's it hits you differently. You know, everything about motherhood, it's like once you are in it, that's when you'll understand. Um, Going back to conversations that I had with like my compadre Juan, he would tell me, you know, prior to Ariel, I would stay up, you know, wee hours of the night watching movies, playing video games, partying, and I'd get up to go to work, you know, early in the morning. He would tell me like, but once you have the baby, it's just a different level of exhaustion. And he would tell me, and that's coming from me, like I'm the dad, I'm not, you know, Mariana who's doing all the work. And I'd be like,
the
okay, well,
primary parent.
yeah, you know, so I would be like, I would be in college, like I would stay up partying till 4 in the morning, go home, change real quick, and then make it to work at 5:30, and I would be chill, go do my work, full shift, go to all my classes, and then sorority events, and go to
I
sleep.
got this.
Yeah, like what do you mean? I'm good. But it's different because the same, like if the next day I wanted to nap all day and I had no work or class, I could. And with a baby, like you can't. And that saying of like sleep when the baby sleeps, like that irks my
Or
brain.
sleep now because you're not
Like
going to sleep later.
it
Go to
irks me
fucking
so
bed.
much when they would tell me, and now when I hear them tell other moms, because it's not like a diaper raffle. It's not like I can donate to you my hours and then you clock in sleep after. Like that's not how it works, like your body, even when you're sleeping as a mom, as a primary parent, like you aren't resting. I remember in the early days, like Michael would tell me, like he's fine, and I'm like, no, I can hear them moving in the crib, and he's like, no, 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 he's still asleep. And sure enough, they'd go and go check, and they're like squirming, and I'm like, I can hear him, and they would think I was crazy, but I'm like,
Or
I'm
like
not.
knowing what each scream is and
Yeah.
like, are they okay or do they need me?
It's just
I get
different.
that. Yes, yes, yes.
And then,
Exactly.
my experience with back to back babies, now you put a newborn plus, this toddler um into the mix. It was literally like, I'm telling you, Diego hated us. He would sleep hours with my mom and my in-laws, and with us he was up every 2 hours. But in between every those 2 3 hours, Leo would wake up every 4. So literally we were up every 2 or every hour because one baby was awake.
And for a
And
while, you had Diego in the bassinet and Leo's crib up against your guys' bed, right?
yeah, so I mean, hi, go eat your popcorn. We would, put them to bed, each in their crib and their bassinet, and we co-sleep. So for a breastfeeding mom, for me, it was just easier to. I'm not gonna keep. No, just come to the bed and I'll feed you here. And so it was just, by the time it hit 2, 3 in the morning, like it's four of us on our bed. Which, like, when we had a cow king, it was amazing. Now on my queen bed, it's literally like Tetris trying to, like,
Kind of
put
like,
us all on our bed. But it's just this level of exhaustion that you just, the same until I would have like Michael home, or my suegra, my mom, we would go visit somebody, and I would like doze off, and I would like wake up like 30 minutes 2 hours later, like, oh my god, I knocked out, I'm so sorry.
but I remember
Like
when you came with Leo, when you're like, I need to come see you. And I was like, all right. Like, I was working from home and she came over. She probably was pregnant already because
I
it was
was.
March. Yeah. And she was like, I was like, here, like I got the baby. He's gonna just go work with me in the office. Like, do your thing. She's like, okay, well, I'm just gonna sit here with the dog and like veg out on like reality TV. And I was like, all right, cool. So like I managed to put Leo to sleep and I was like, all right, he's sleeping. And I remember like I closed the door and I like walked to tell her that he was sleeping and I was jumping on a Zoom meeting. Fucking slumped. Slumped on the couch, like all chuecas, like kind of like slowly fixed her a little bit and the dog like cuddled up with her. Girl, I finished my Zoom. Leo was still asleep. I made myself something to eat. And then she like darts up and she's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I dozed off for like 15 minutes. I'm like, girl, it's been damn near 3 hours. Like, she's like, the baby. I'm like, he's chilling. He's still asleep too for damn near 3 hours. Just, she's like, oh, okay. Okay. Like, just the like, immediate, like, oh my gosh. I don't think she realized how tired she was until she got the rest that she needed.
Now, I'm 2.5 years in, and sometimes like my day is just so go 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 with them that I don't I don't feel how tired I am until everyone's asleep. My nighttime routine is done, and I lay my head on that pillow, and it's like knocked out, and it's like you don't realize it because you're just going going going.
Oh, yeah. For me, I was really adamant about having the baby in the bassinet, just all the things that you hear and the ABCs of sleep and no blanket and no stuffies and blah 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 blah. That lasted like a day. We got to the house and I remember like we were gifted the Boppy Lounger.
Is that you or me?
That's us. It's the group chat. And I know that you're not supposed to use them for sleep, so don't come at me for that. But I remember like one day we were both tired. My mom was sleeping in the living room. Michelle was already gone. And like Omar put the baby in the boppy, but like on the bed, and he like just go to sleep. And I'm like, no, like what if we squish him? What if he like sits? What if he suffocates? And he's like, just you need sleep, like just go to sleep. So I like went to sleep for a little bit, but then I kept thinking like he's gonna roll over and smush him, or like I'm gonna roll over and smush him. That night Ezekiel did not sleep. He was just crying to the point that like my milk was fucking just flowing. He didn't want to eat. He didn't want a diaper change. He didn't want to be held. And like I felt bad for my mom, right? Because she's trying to sleep too, so she can take care of him in the morning. So like, I remember I like grabbed him and I went into his nursery, and like there's a video of me on the phone like at 3 a.m, like crying, like I'm his mom. I'm supposed to know why he's crying and how to comfort him, and I can't figure it out. Like I literally recorded myself because I knew that I needed that, right? I needed to know that I got through that in tough times. But anyway, so like I was exhausted. I was fucking so tired. I like my rocker glider has like the ottoman, and then it has like a bunch of other shit around it. So I remember I was like, you're not supposed to sleep in a chair with the baby, but I'm fucking exhausted. He's finally like semi quiet in his sleep, you know, probably foreshadowing that he loves contact naps. So I remember like I got like the 3 boppies that I had, and like the breast friend, and like my feet up, and like the pregnancy pillow, and I fucking just slumped as fuck. And then I remember at some point my mom walked in and she's like, here, hand me the baby, like descansa. Girl, I was like, I didn't even bother moving. I just like me acurruqué más en la silla, slumped, fucking slumped. That was probably the one like exhaustion. There's been a lot, but that's probably the one exhaustion that I totally remember. Because even when he was in the NICU, I didn't sleep, but I didn't feel exhausted because I didn't have time to feel exhausted. Right, with the machines beeping and all the wires and the nurses coming in and out, like I couldn't get sleep anyway. And it wasn't until that night that I was like, holy fuck, like I need to make sure that I'm getting rest, because I, me falling asleep in the chair with baby could have gone totally sideways. Um, and then, yeah, but we also co-sleep. So after that, we decided to put him in the bed, and we've co-slept ever since. We're slowly starting to sleep train. I've tried it before and it was fucking hell. He would just cry, contact naps all the way, but then I was nap trapped. And now, like I would say, I threw my back out. I think I told you guys in the previous episode, I threw my back out last week, 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of forced me to sleep train because I couldn't physically get in the crib with him. So like yesterday and today, he's gone to down for a nap, and last night he went down to sleep without a bottle or without me. Like he drinks his bottle, he plays, and then 2 nights ago or 3 nights ago now, he slept the whole night. We can't replicate that. I don't know what, the stars aligned that night, so stars please align. But he went down at 8:30 and he woke up at 6:30. I woke up still to check on him, but yeah, it's just a very level of exhaustion, because even now that he's sleeping in the crib, you would think like, all right, he's down in his crib at 8:30, I should get some rest, right? Well, no, because then it's like my partner hat comes on. Okay, I have to finish doing laundry. I have to, put away the dinner. I have to wash the dishes, and I don't do it all by myself. Like I'm not gonna say that I'm superwoman. Omar helps me a lot. But there's certain things I'm like, well, he's been working late all week. Joy doesn't your own business. He's been working late all week where he doesn't get home till 9 or 10 at night. And he gets home exhausted, and my stepson gets home, he's like, well, fuck, we're tired. Like, he drops him off and he's like, hey, I just dropped him off. I'm going to be home in like literally 2 minutes. I'm like, all right, cool. So on those days, I feel like, especially, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to go and make sure that like, it doesn't look like the house is a fucking chaotic disaster that it was. But he doesn't have to walk into that, right? And that's going into the mind tricks that your brain plays. But before we move on to the brain part, one other thing that you will notice is you can spot a mom from a mile away because she has the mom uniform, and it's just because of exhaustion, lack of time for herself, most of the time. But usually, like, I'm surprised I'm dressed today, but I'm only dressed today because I woke up early and Omar didn't go to work today. So I was able to be like, hey, you got him so I can jump in the shower and at least get dressed. Because there's days where it's like 5 or 6 and I'm like, I am still in pajamas or I'm still wearing fucking leggings and a sweatshirt and a bun. Like, let me look a little bit different. That's why my hair is purposely down today, because I've been putting it either in a baseball cap messy bun or like a messy bun. So one thing that me and Michelle have been trying to do more recently, I would say, is like do our hair. My makeup is still second, it's on the back burner. Um, but just getting dressed, something as easy as getting dressed, because for a long time, your girl lived in fucking leggings, a t-shirt, a messy bun, and out the fucking door. And I gave birth in the summer, so I was even in either Crocs or in Birkenstocks. I look crazy as fuck. Like, yep, we're gonna be going to the steakhouse, and I'm wearing my Crocs. Like, it is what it is.
You just don't have time. Like we mentioned also, like, you're like, shoot, it's been 3 days and I haven't showered. But for me, I fell really, really big in that trap of like social media. I would follow all these pages, all these people who recently had, kids. And I would see that they'd be like on TikTok, get ready with me, my morning. And it was like full on glam, curling their hair, giving themselves blowouts at home. And I would be like, well,
In
damn.
their size zero jeans with fucking stilettos.
Right. And I would be like, well, damn.
Make it make sense.
I literally have like my shirt that I've worn for 2 days that has like breast milk everywhere and avocado here, And so I fell into that really hard with Leo, and I would get up and, there's pictures of me with like full on glam and curled hair. Which the same, he would sleep, so I would take advantage and get ready. But with two who never slept at the same time, it this is it, and you're good to go, and it's fine,
Because remember,
not to.
one thing that we don't see on social media is we don't see their village. We don't see their nanny that comes in 4 or 5 times a week. We don't see that their mom is staying with them for 6 months or for the first year, or that their husband or partner is also self-employed and can take the kids while they get ready. Like, you only see a probably minute reel, 20-second video, but it's one thing to see it and it's very hard to live it, but it's totally fine. If you still live in fucking leggings and yesterday's spit up t-shirt, girl, do you. Ain't nobody judging you.
It really not. It's really not. And it's okay. I would see a lot, like I mentioned, a lot of like my favorite YouTubers and, TikTokers were, having babies and dealing with postpartum bodies after. And I would see them like fajadas. And I would be like, well, as someone who didn't have plans to do that. Like I had them, but it was just so uncomfortable with like my hemorrhoids that I was like, no. That I started second guessing myself. Like, should I? Should I go back to fajándome? Should I be doing that?
Yo
And
sí
it's
me
like, no.
fajé. Yo sí me fajé, but I have
No.
I had a really bad like tailbone, pelvic bone, lower back injury when I was going into the 6th grade, Michelle. Yeah, right. Yeah, the summer
Mm-hmm.
before 6th grade, I had a really bad injury. Like, your girl was in a wheelchair for a couple weeks. I mean, I had to go to Sobadora, like, anyway. So and like I mentioned in my birth story, I was terrified of fucking up my tailbone. So yo me fajé, like, the day I got home from the hospital, I took that shower and Michelle helped me fajarme. I bought a faja off Amazon. It wasn't even crazy expensive because they could be fucking expensive. So I literally just Googled, like, postpartum faja, and like a bunch of fajas came up. I got like a Colombian, que para postparto y para las operadas or whatever. So it was like short. It was actually comfortable. So I did like enjoy wearing it. Um, what wasn't, and what I had to realize, and like I bought another a faja recently, and what I realized is that you're supposed to put your panties on top and not under the faja. So here I
If you
was,
wear.
yeah, if I wear them, and I was wearing them because I was wearing the period underwear. So pero yo me fajé not so much for the vanity, but for that abdominal and back support that I needed. physically. I think if I was not bajada and I could feel it, like my back just ached differently. Again, I was terrified of fucking up my tailbone and my pelvic again. So that's why I chose to fajarme. And but if you don't fajarte, that's fine. And there's some people that are super old school and like their tias or whatever, like literally wrap them in a fucking sabana. One thing that was cool though was that your suegra like no se apretó. That felt really good. If you know what that is,
That
Michelle, you take it away because I can't even explain it.
so she calls it like apretándote. And apparently it's just to like close you up because they believe that when you give birth, like, everything opens, which is why they, make you taparte tus oídos, que like you're supposed to, whatever.
It's like one of
Point
those
is,
quarantena things.
yeah, point is like, you lay on the floor and with, like, she uses a scarf, pretty much anything that you can. Go over there. We're
Anything
almost
that's
done.
long and kind of narrow.
Yeah, because you're laying down and then with the like scarf or whatever, they wrap around. She does like your head all the way, not your boobs because supposedly it's bad for your breast milk. Grab it and then with a like foam roller pin, she would just turn it until it gets like super tight to however much you feel comfortable with, and she'll leave it there for a minute or two, and then bring it down.
Yeah, like there's a lot of different things that happen in that level of exhaustion, that like initial postpartum body wise, a lot happens when you get pregnant and then deliver and then, those months to follow. We're going to transition and briefly talk on mom brain. We believe that mental health is really important. So we're going to do a whole separate episode on our postpartum mental health status.
And I know we keep mentioning it like it's coming, but it really is coming. We just really have to like be in a mind space to be able to share because it's not.
We're living it, right? Like we're actively living through our postpartum mental health journey. So for some people it's easier to talk about and for some people it's not. Mental health has always been this taboo subject. Me, I'm very open about it. I'm very open with everybody, right? I am pro get yourself ready, get your mind right. Other people are not, and that's totally fine. So we just need to get to a level of comfort where we can discuss these very heavy items on camera without breaking down every sentence.
Which it's okay to break down, but obviously, like, it's not beneficial for our listeners and viewers if we're just like through it all. Like,
So
we want to be
we're working
able.
on it. We've tried to film it. We can't get through it. Throw in 3 kids under 2 that are now needy and walking and interrupt and stuff. So we just need to film it, and it's coming, guys. I know we say that a lot, but really quickly, one big thing that I did not know is that there's more than just postpartum depression. Because postpartum depression is the only thing you hear about. There is postpartum anxiety. There is postpartum depression. There is postpartum rage. There is postpartum PTSD if you had traumatic birth. There is so much more than just PPD. So I think, like Michelle said it before, if you are filling out that questionnaire and something doesn't make sense for you, advocate. Say, you know what? I don't feel like this, but I feel this. Because that could be a trigger for them that, okay, it's not PPD. It could be blah, 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 blah.
Whatever.
Um, but yeah, like I deal a lot right now with postpartum anxiety, uh, postpartum PTSD, not from my birth necessarily, but just from a bunch of other issues that we've had. And more recently, I have been dealing with postpartum rage. Not fun, but it's also not my fault, and it's okay to have these feelings. Um, do you want to quickly just let them know what you have been dealing with, or?
Yeah. So me, my first sign was the rage. Which like same. I didn't know it existed until they were like, oh,
I think
actually,
Krista was the one that told us, like, "Oh, I had postpartum rage." I'm like, "Tell me
what?
more." I'm
'Cause,
curious.
yeah, they were, and it's like it's so sad that until you bring it up, they're like, oh yeah, it's actually really normal. Like a lot of women get it. And it's like, well, if it's normal, why didn't anyone ask me? You know, you even when I first went to go confirm, you know, the pregnancy that there was a heartbeat, they start talking to you the first appointment about postpartum, prepartum, depression, and it's like depression, 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 and it wasn't until I spoke up and said like that doesn't correlate exactly to what I feel, but if I replace that word with anger, then that's me. But the same, like having to feel like everything that I felt, I would be like, well, it's angry. And then I would feel bad that I would lash out. So then I would start crying because I knew that that anger wasn't coming from me necessarily, but it was. So then I was like, well, I'm depressed because I'm crying. So I'm depressed. Um,
It's
so, you
it's
know,
a
it's just
mind
this,
game.
it really is. And then sometimes, like, even with Leo, like, I experience baby blues. And then the same, they're kind of like, well, it's so normal, just give it some time. You know, so you're kind of like always questioning your emotions, but then they're like, well, that's normal. And then they just stop asking, but then it's more than
Or
just,
you don't see someone for 6 weeks.
or it's a Zoom appointment and they're like, you're good, girl. And it's like, but I'm not.
Yeah.
Um,
So, like I said, there's going to be a lot on the mental health, but one other thing, like specifically talking about the mom brain, is that how you forget things. Like, there's been times, honestly, where I leave the house and I have the baby, I have the diaper bag, I have everything, and I don't have a fucking bottle. I mean, like, there'd be times where I'd be driving and Ezekiel's having a fit, and I'm like, fuck, I forgot a bottle. Or I don't even have like a manual pump to pump. I don't have a bottle to pump into. Like, what? How could I forget the fucking bottle? Like, out of everything, how can I forget my baby's milk? You know? Or like frozen milk because I was able to pump and I had frozen donated milk. So like I'd be like, I brought the milk but I didn't bring the bottle, or I brought the bottle and the milk but the milk is frozen. So it was just very, that it's just how quickly you forget the little things because you're so focused on like your mental checklist. Does the car have gas? Yes. The car seat, the blanket, that feeling that you're always thinking that you're 100 steps ahead, yet you actually feel and possibly are 200 steps behind.
that part, exactly. I think your brain kind of, like we've mentioned, you just start prepping, you know. My husband does it a lot, like, why are you packing so much? And I'm like, but what if I get locked in at like Target and there's like a zombie apocalypse, you know?
I
Like,
remember you went to IKEA and locked the keys in the car.
okay, exactly. We went to IKEA to kill some time, shop around, and I had my pump in the bag. And I'm so used to keys now, with the fobs, like they don't let you lock it in the car. When
Which
we
is,
were
by the
borrowing,
way, not true for all cars. Let's put that out there.
I mean, in this case, the battery was dead. That's why it happened. But,
But like the Mercedes, that was not true with the Mercedes.
so we ended up, changing a diaper and I put the thing in the back because there was no space anywhere. And as soon as I closed the trunk, I go around to open the door and I'm like, it's locked. And my suegra goes the other way, it's locked. Luckily, there was just like nobody in the car, but we locked the freaking keys in the trunk in the diaper bag at an IKEA. And
And it
you
wasn't
know,
her
my
car. Let's put that out there. It was
yeah,
not
I
her.
was borrowing a car, so that's why I was like, my car doesn't do that. Well, duh, it's not your car. But I ended up being locked out in IKEA. We had to call my brother-in-law to come save us. But even then, it was like he got there, didn't have what he needed, so he had to go back and then come back. There was a Target across the street, and I was like, oh my God, like, do I just go buy a new pump? Like, what do I do? But my kid was hungry, so I was like, well, it's either you take the boob, because he wasn't a fan at latching, and then that day I guess he was starving, and then that's when we started like breastfeeding Diego again. But
Not to
you
the
know,
IKEA story.
like it's like things like that. You don't. I wasn't expecting to be stuck in IKEA. My diaper bag was packed for an emergency, but it was stuck in the trunk. So like
Yeah.
things happen,
Well,
and
I remember even as simple as like when we packed to go to Hawaii, Omar's like, why are you packing so many bags? And I'm like, oh, well, this is the snack bag. This is the toy bag. This is the bag that has all of Ezekiel's medicines and nebulizers. And
because
then
what it.
there's his luggage. And then there's our toiletries. And I'm like, okay, babe, but there's so many fucking bags. And I'm like, you never know.
What if we get stuck at the airport? What if there's a delay? Like, you have to think about these things because it's not just, oh, well, if I'm stuck at an airport, I just won't eat. It happened to us where we got stuck in Mexico and the Wi-Fi was down. Stuck in Mexico where like the internet was down the whole all of Mexico. So like credit cards, debit cards, none of that existed.
Even
And we
the registers, like at the two restaurants that were at the airport, they're like, "Oh no, our registers are down."
like
Like
it's cash only.
cash with like a
So
paper receipt.
yeah, so literally it was like since then I'm like I could go without eating 6 to 12 hours. Water, fine, but what am I supposed to tell Lionel and Diego? Like, no, we can't get you fries? Like, no,
And
it's just,
we're not saying, "Oh my God, it's doomsday every single day where we go." It's just in our heads. It's like all these things need to happen so that I can enjoy a trip to IKEA. So I can like have less things to worry about on a flight at the airport. Like it's just this constant go 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 of list of shit that needs to happen. And if then you feel like if I don't do it, it's not going to get done because they don't know that it needs to be done. But then I don't want to ask them because they think I'm crazy. So I'll just go through and like go through this. Okay, this. Yes. Oh no, I need that.
yeah.
This. Yep. Okay, we're good. Let's go.
And me, okay, this is how like prepared I am. I have a diaper bag with like pajamas, an extra set of clothes, diapers, and wipes. And then aside from that, I have a to go baggie that has like extra pajamas and clothes and sunblock and like clothes for me because like what if we sleep somewhere and I'm not prepared? That has like all my little mini like toiletries because what if? And then the car has a backup thing underneath where you put all the flat tire stuff with more diapers and more stuff because what if and
Well,
that's
even
just
that way, when we went to that beach in Hawaii, you're like, "Fuck, I didn't bring my kids' clothes."
yeah because it was like okay, everyone's having a meltdown, let me just get them in the car and it just
I was
happens
like,
and it's
"Don't worry,
okay.
I have extra clothes for Ezekiel." So
We were like
instead of having Nate, and that day, like we were far from the house. It was like a 2 hour drive. She's like, "I'll just take them in their wet, like take their diapers off, and I'll just take them in in their swim trunks." And I was like, "No, like here's some shorts for Leo. Here's a onesie for Jake. We
hold
make
on.
it work." But it's just this constant. It's again, she's all planned and packed, but then something happens to throw you off a little bit, and then there you are falling 200 steps behind, and that's like a shout out to our village. It's our shout out to our partners. Our partners, I think, are phenomenal at making sure that we don't carry the load completely, right? There's always a primary parent, and that primary parent does carry the load. But sometimes that primary parent needs someone to carry them, and that's when our partners come through. I think we have a really good team, a really good dynamic. And there's times where they step it up and we step down a little bit because we just need that little break, and that's fine. And if you don't have someone to take that break with, and you need someone to vent with, that's why we're here. Your village is here. So one
Yes.
thing that we're gonna leave off with is one, you can't fill with an empty cup. We've said that multiple times. And two, this simple phrase, al cabo no lloran sangre. You need to shower, put your kid in a safe place, go take a shower. They're gonna cry, they're gonna scream, shower. You need to wash up, you need to take a shit, put them in a safe place, go take your shit. Al cabo no lloran sangre. With that said, I know Michelle's kids are getting a little fussy. Mine's about to wake up again, and he's probably not going to go back down. So today's small business shout out is
Lux Beauty Lounge LA. Shout out to Malia, who also has her little shop out in Alhambra. She does a bunch of esthetician work, eyebrow work,
she also offers
eyelashes.
courses. That's where Alyssa did her micro needling course, her lash course. So she's a wealth of knowledge for skincare. How to run a small business, similar to Mercedes, but in a different field of the beauty world. And she's my god sister, by the way.
So yeah, so just she's doing amazing things. Malia, we're very, very proud of you. And the same, like we always say, we don't get anything for shouting these small businesses out. It's just a way of showing our support. Anytime that she has a class coming up, if I talk to people who have mentioned it, I'm like, hey, she has this class, you should check it out. Or, liking her stuff. Like we always mention, a visit to someone's page really makes that much of a difference, because now Malia does facials. She can do your eyelash extensions. She can do your, whatever it is that you're
The
interested in.
brow lifting. She just got someone on her team that does the teeth whitening and then the
The
teeth.
jewels.
I know that she was looking at getting a nurse to do Botox. So she's doing the damn thing. So Amalia, we're proud of you. Lux Beauty Lounge LA.
Yeah.
We'll put her at down below. But with that, we really have to wrap up. So remember, you are strong, you are beautiful, you are loved, you are worthy, you are enough, and you are capable. You got this, Mama.